What did you think would happen if you ran away from your forced wedding with the ruthless Mafia boss? Chapter 1. 2 weeks earlier, Vivian's father had called her into his study at 3 in the morning. She'd stumbled down the hallway of their cramped apartment in her pajamas, heart pounding. Late-night calls from Richard Clarke never meant anything good. The last time, he'd sold her mother's wedding ring. The time before that, he'd emptied her savings account. He sat behind his desk with a bottle of whiskey and trembling hands. "Sit down, Viv." She didn't sit. "What did you do?" He wouldn't look at her. His eyes stayed fixed on the amber liquid in his glass. "I made a mistake. A big one." "How much?" Her voice came out flat. She was tired. So tired of this. 3 million. The number hit her like a fist. 3 million? Dad, where did you even get access to $3 million? Volkov's casino. I kept thinking I could win it back. I kept thinking the next hand would be the one. He finally looked up. His eyes were red. Wet. Pathetic. "They're going to kill me, Vivian." Her stomach dropped. Volkov. Everyone in the city knew that name. Dominic Volkov. The man who owned half the politicians and all of the underworld. The man whose enemies disappeared. "We'll figure something out," she said, though she had no idea how. "We'll sell the apartment. I'll get a second job. We'll set up a payment plan. It's already done." Her father's voice cracked. "What's already done?" He slid a folder across the desk. His hand shook so badly the papers inside rustled. "He made me an offer. A way to clear the debt." Vivian opened the folder. Her vision blurred as she read. Marriage contract. Terms and conditions. Her name typed in black ink next to Dominic Volkov's signature. "You sold me." The words came out as a whisper. "It's not like that. You sold me to a criminal to pay off your gambling debt." "Vivian, please." He stood up, reaching for her. She stepped back. "Don't touch me." He said you'd live in a mansion. You'd have everything. Security. Money. You'd never have to worry about anything again. Except I'd belong to him. Her father's face crumpled. "I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice. You just made the one that saved your skin." She'd thrown the folder at him and locked herself in her room. She'd cried until her throat was raw. Then she'd started planning. She'd called her aunt in London, packed an emergency bag, hidden it in her closet, researched flights, created a fake passport through a girl she knew from college. She just needed to get through the wedding. Then she'd run. Now, standing at the altar in a cathedral filled with criminals, Vivian realized how stupid that plan had been. The priest asked his question for the second time. "Do you, Vivian Marie Clarke, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Dominic Volkov stood beside her like a statue carved from ice. He wore a black suit that fit him like armor. His dark hair was slicked back. His gray eyes stared straight ahead. He hadn't smiled once. Hadn't spoken to her except to say, "You look acceptable," when she'd walked down the aisle. Her father had handed her over at the cathedral entrance with shaking hands and wouldn't meet her eyes. Coward. The guests watched in silence. Men with cold faces and expensive watches. Women dripping in diamonds. Everyone had come to see Dominic Volkov claim his newest possession. Vivian's heart hammered against her ribs. The bouquet of white roses felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The veil over her face felt like a cage. She looked at Dominic. Really looked at him. Tried to find something human behind those gray eyes. Some hint of mercy. Some possibility that this could be survivable. He turned his head. Met her gaze. And she saw nothing. No warmth. No affection. Not even interest. Just ownership. Something inside her snapped. "No." The word dropped into the silence like a bomb. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Her father shot to his feet in the front row, face white. Dominic's expression didn't change, but his hand tightened around hers. "Vivian." His voice was quiet. Controlled. Deadly. "Think very carefully about what you're doing." "I already did." She ripped her hand from his, tore the veil from her head, and threw the bouquet at his chest. "I'm not yours." Then she ran. Her heels clicked against marble as she bolted down the aisle. Shouts erupted behind her. Her father screamed her name. Heavy footsteps thundered after her. She burst through the cathedral doors into blinding sunlight. The parking lot was full of black cars. Drivers in suits stood beside them, weapons barely concealed. They all turned toward her. She spotted a silver Mercedes with keys still in the ignition. Some guest who'd been too arrogant to think anyone would steal from a Volkov wedding. Vivian hiked up her dress, threw herself into the driver's seat, and slammed the locks. Hands pounded on the windows. Men shouted. Someone drew a gun. She didn't care. She jammed the car into drive and floored it. The Mercedes screamed out of the parking lot. Gunshots cracked behind her, but she was already gone, tires squealing as she took the turn toward the highway. Her emergency bag was still in her old room. Her fake passport was useless. But her aunt had sent her a ticket confirmation weeks ago. British Airways. 8 p.m. flight to London. She'd memorized the confirmation number. She could still make it. She could still get out. The airport was 20 minutes away. She pushed the Mercedes to 90 miles per hour, weaving through traffic in a wedding dress. Other drivers honked and swerved. She didn't slow down. Her phone buzzed in the cup holder. Unknown number. She ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. And again. Finally, shaking, she answered. Hello, Vivian. Dominic's voice was ice. I'm disappointed. I thought you were smarter than this. Go to hell. Where do you think you're going? Your aunt's house in London? I know about the ticket. I've known since the day she bought it. Vivian's blood went cold. Did you really think I wouldn't do my research? I know everything about you. Every friend. Every relative. Every place you've ever felt safe. He paused. Turn the car around. Never. Then I'll see you at the airport. The line went dead. Vivian's hands shook on the wheel, but she didn't turn around. He was bluffing. He had to be. The airport was massive. International. Public. He couldn't control everything. She pulled into the airport parking garage 15 minutes later, abandoned the Mercedes, and ran for the terminal in her ruined wedding dress. People stared. She didn't care. The automatic doors slid open, and her heart stopped. The terminal was swarming with men in black suits. They stood at every check-in counter, every security gate, every exit. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all wearing identical expressions of cold efficiency. Every departure screen flashed the same message in red letters: security lockdown. All flights grounded. Vivian stood frozen in the entrance, chest heaving. He'd shut down the entire airport. The men turned toward her, started walking. She backed up, but there was nowhere to go. They were behind her too, blocking the exits. She was surrounded. This was it. She'd run and she'd lost. Then a hand grabbed her arm. Vivian spun, ready to fight, but the person yanking her sideways was a woman. Mid-30s. Red leather jacket and sharp eyes. Move, the woman hissed, dragging Vivian toward a maintenance door marked restricted access. Who are you? The woman kicked open the door and shoved Vivian into a dark maintenance tunnel that smelled like oil and concrete. Someone who knows what Dominic Volkov does to things he owns. The woman pulled the door shut behind them as shouts erupted in the terminal. He's not the only one who wants you, girl. Vivian's heart pounded. What does that mean? The woman started running down the tunnel. It means you need to run faster. Chapter 2. The tunnel was narrow and dark. Exposed pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping water that pooled on the concrete floor. The woman in the red jacket moved fast, her boots splashing through puddles without hesitation. Vivian struggled to keep up. Her wedding dress was heavy, the fabric catching on jagged edges of metal and concrete. She grabbed handfuls of lace and tulle, trying to lift it higher, but it was impossible. Her heels kept slipping. Behind them, the maintenance door burst open. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Voices shouted commands. Find her. Check every branch. Volkov wants her alive. The woman grabbed Vivian's wrist and pulled her around a corner, then another. The tunnel split into different directions. Left. Right. Straight ahead. It was a maze. Where are we going? Vivian gasped. Anywhere but here. The woman didn't slow down. Can you run in that thing? I'm trying. Try harder. They took another turn. This tunnel was even darker. The woman pulled out a small flashlight and clicked it on. The beam bounced off rusted pipes and graffiti-covered walls. They passed abandoned equipment. Old luggage carts. A broken security booth. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter behind them, but the woman didn't stop. She led Vivian through twist after twist until they reached a metal ladder bolted to the wall. It stretched up into darkness. Climb, the woman ordered. Vivian looked up. She couldn't see where the ladder ended. Where does it go? Does it matter? It's up and they're down there. Move. Vivian kicked off her heels, grabbed the cold metal rungs, and started climbing. The dress made it nearly impossible. The fabric tangled around her legs. She had to stop every few rungs to pull it free. The woman climbed below her, shining the flashlight upward. Faster. I'm going as fast as I can in a wedding dress. Then maybe you should have thought of that before you decided to run from Dominic Volkov. Vivian's arms burned. Her bare feet ached against the metal. But she kept climbing, rung after rung, up and up until finally her hand hit something solid. A hatch. Push it open, the woman called from below. Vivian braced her shoulder against the metal and shoved. The hatch groaned but didn't budge. She tried again, throwing all her weight into it. This time it gave way with a screech of rusted hinges. Cold night air rushed in. Vivian pulled herself through the opening and collapsed onto pavement. They were in an alley behind the airport. Dumpsters lined one wall. A chain-link fence blocked the other end. The distant sound of traffic hummed from the main road. The woman climbed out after her and pulled the hatch closed. She dragged a dumpster over it, hiding it from view. "Can you walk?" she asked. Vivian pushed herself to her feet. Her dress was filthy, torn, streaked with oil and grime. "I don't have shoes." The woman pulled off her own boots and tossed them over. "Size 8. They'll be big, but better than nothing." Vivian caught them, surprised. "Why are you helping me?" "Because Dominic Volkov is a bastard and I enjoy making his life difficult." The woman pulled out a phone and typed something quickly. "We need to move. My car is 2 blocks away." "Who are you?" The woman started walking toward the fence. "Name's Sienna. That's all you need to know right now." Vivian pulled on the boots. They were too big, but she laced them tight and followed. Sienna scaled the chain-link fence like she'd done it 1,000 times. Vivian struggled behind her, the wedding dress catching on the metal links. "This dress is a liability," Sienna said when they dropped to the other side. "We need to get you out of it." They hurried through side streets, staying in shadows. Sienna moved with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she was going. Vivian just tried to keep up, her mind racing. Dominic had shut down an entire airport. How much power did someone need to do that? How many people did he own? And what would he do when he caught her? Because he would catch her. She knew that now. You didn't run from men like Dominic Volkov. You didn't embarrass them in front of hundreds of people and just walk away. Sienna stopped at a dark blue sedan parked on a quiet street. She unlocked it and gestured for Vivian to get in. The interior smelled like coffee and leather. Fast food wrappers littered the floor. A laptop bag sat in the back seat. Sienna started the engine and pulled into traffic without turning on the headlights. "Where are we going?" Vivian asked. "Safe house. East side of the city. Industrial district." "And then what?" "Then we figure out why Dominic Volkov wants you so badly he'd shut down an airport." Sienna glanced at her. "Because that's not normal, even for him. He wants me because my father sold me to him. I'm property he paid for." "No." Sienna's voice was flat. "Certain. Dominic Volkov doesn't shut down airports over arranged marriages. He doesn't mobilize 100 men to chase down a runaway bride. He'd cut his losses and move on." She took a turn too fast. The tires squealed. "There's something else going on. Something bigger." Vivian's stomach twisted. "Like what?" "That's what we're going to find out." They drove in silence for 20 minutes. The city lights gave way to darker streets. Warehouses. Abandoned factories. Places where nobody asked questions. Sienna pulled into an underground parking garage beneath a crumbling building. She parked in a corner spot, killed the engine, and got out. "Stay close," she said. They took a freight elevator to the 4th floor. The hallway was dimly lit, paint peeling from the walls. Sienna stopped at apartment 4C and unlocked 3 separate deadbolts. The apartment inside was small but clean. 1 bedroom, a kitchenette, a living room with blackout curtains, and a couch that had seen better days. Surveillance monitors were stacked on a desk in the corner, all turned off. "Bathroom's through there," Sienna said, pointing. "There's clothes in the closet that might fit. Get out of that dress." Vivian didn't argue. She went into the bathroom and locked the door behind her. The mirror showed a stranger. Her makeup was smeared. Her hair had fallen from its elegant updo. The wedding dress hung in tatters. She looked like she'd survived a war. Maybe she had. She found scissors in a drawer and started cutting. The fabric fell away in pieces until she stood in just the slip underneath. She washed her face, pulled the pins from her hair, found clothes in the bedroom closet like Sienna had said. Jeans, a black t-shirt, a hoodie. When she came back out, Sienna was on her laptop at the desk, typing rapidly. "Feel better?" Sienna asked without looking up. "Not really." Vivian sat on the couch. Her whole body ached. "Thank you for helping me. I don't know why you did, but thank you. Don't thank me yet. Sienna's fingers paused on the keyboard. We need to talk about your father. What about him? Richard Clarke. Gambling addict. In debt to Dominic Volkov for $3 million. Sienna turned the laptop around. The screen showed security footage. Grainy. Black and white. A timestamp from 2 nights ago. Vivian leaned forward. The footage showed her father entering a building. Not a casino. Something else. He looked around nervously, then slipped inside. What am I looking at? Vivian asked. Dominic's private estate. Main house. This is from the security system. Sienna clicked to the next video. Your father wasn't just gambling, Vivian. He was stealing. The next clip showed her father in what looked like an office. He was rifling through drawers. Opening a safe. Taking something out. A small black box. What is that? Vivian whispered. A hard drive. Encrypted. Contains the locations of every Volkov operation, bank account, and business partner. It's worth more than money. It's worth power. Sienna closed the laptop. Your father stole it the night before your wedding. Vivian's head spun. That's impossible. He wouldn't. He's not smart enough for that. Maybe not on his own. Sienna stood up and walked to the window, peeking through the blackout curtains. But someone helped him. Someone who wanted access to Dominic's empire. Someone who paid him to get close. Who? Sienna let the curtain fall back into place. The Antonov Bratva. Russian mob. Dominic's biggest rival. She turned to face Vivian. Your father made a deal with them. He'd get the hard drive, and they'd pay him $5 million. Enough to clear his debt and disappear. Then why did he still make me marry Dominic? Insurance. If the deal went bad, you'd be married to Volkov. Protected. Your father would have leverage. Vivian felt sick. So I was bait. Worse than that. Sienna crossed her arms. The Bratva thinks you have the hard drive. That's why they're hunting you too. That's why you're not just running from Dominic. You're running from everyone. Before Vivian could respond, Sienna's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and her expression hardened. We need to leave. Now. What? Why? Because someone just triggered the motion sensors on the ground floor. Sienna grabbed a duffel bag from under the couch and unzipped it. Inside were 2 handguns and boxes of ammunition. And they're coming up fast. Chapter 3. Sienna tossed one of the handguns to Vivian. Vivian caught it on instinct, then immediately held it away from her body like it might explode. I don't know how to use this. Safety's off. Point and pull the trigger if someone tries to kill you. Sienna shoved the laptop into her bag along with the second gun. We're going out the fire escape. Move. She dragged Vivian toward the bedroom window. The sounds of footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Heavy boots. Multiple people. They weren't bothering to be quiet. Sienna yanked the window open. Cold air rushed in. The fire escape was rusted metal clinging to the side of the building, swaying slightly in the wind. Go, Sienna ordered. Vivian climbed through, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the gun. The metal groaned under her weight. She looked down. For stories. The alley below was dark and empty. Sienna climbed out after her and pulled the window shut just as the apartment door exploded inward. Shouts erupted inside. Men's voices. Russian accents. Clear the bedroom. Check the bathroom. Sienna pressed a finger to her lips, then pointed down. They started descending the fire escape as quietly as possible. Each step sent a faint creak through the metal. Vivian's heart hammered so loud she was sure everyone could hear it. Above them, the bedroom window shattered. Glass rained down. A man's head appeared, scanning the fire escape. There, he shouted. Gunfire cracked through the night. Bullets pinged off the metal railing inches from Vivian's hand. She screamed and lost her grip, sliding down 3 rungs before catching herself. Sienna fired back without hesitation. 2 shots. The man at the window jerked backward and disappeared. Move faster, Sienna yelled. They half climbed, half fell down the remaining levels. More men appeared at windows above them, firing down. Bullets sparked against metal. One grazed the railing next to Vivian's head. They reached the bottom level. The ladder to the ground was retracted, locked in place 12 feet above the alley. Jump! Sienna didn't wait. She swung over the edge and dropped. Vivian looked down at the concrete below. 12 feet might as well have been a mile. Another bullet whizzed past her ear. She jumped. The impact jarred through her knees and ankles. She rolled, scraping her palms on rough concrete. Sienna grabbed her arm and hauled her up. They ran. The alley opened onto a side street. Sienna's car was still in the parking garage, useless now. She pulled Vivian left, then right, weaving through narrow passages between buildings. Behind them, more men poured out of the building. Shouts in Russian echoed off the walls. Sienna took another sharp turn into a wider alley lined with dumpsters. She pulled Vivian behind one and pressed them both flat against the wall. They stood there in the shadows, breathing hard. Footsteps pounded past the alley entrance. The men were spreading out, searching the area. Vivian's lungs burned. Her whole body shook. She still held the gun in a white-knuckled grip. Sienna peeked around the edge of the dumpster, watching. Waiting. Who were they? Vivian whispered. Bratva. Like I said, they want what they think you have. But I don't have anything. They don't know that. Sienna pulled out her phone and typed something one-handed. And until we prove it, they'll keep coming. How do we prove it? We find the hard drive before they do. Or we find your father and make him explain what he did with it. Vivian's chest tightened. Her father. The man who'd raised her. The man who'd read her bedtime stories and taught her to ride a bike. The same man who'd sold her to a crime lord and stolen from the Russian mob. Where is he? She asked. That's the question. Sienna's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and swore under her breath. We need to go. I have a contact who can get us out of the city, but we need to move now. They emerged from behind the dumpster and continued through the alleys. Sienna moved with practiced efficiency, always checking corners, always listening. She led them through a maze of back streets until they reached a busier area. Neon signs. Late-night traffic. People. They blended into a crowd outside a bar. Sienna flagged down a taxi. Where to? The driver asked. Union Station, Sienna said. They climbed in. Vivian sank into the seat, her muscles finally relaxing slightly. The taxi pulled into traffic. Sienna stared out the window, watching for tails. You still have that gun? Vivian looked down. She'd been holding it this entire time. Yes. Put it in your waistband. Cover it with your hoodie. Vivian did as she was told, tucking the weapon against her lower back. It felt foreign. Wrong. She'd never held a gun before tonight. Now she was carrying one through the city like it was normal. Nothing about this was normal. Why are you helping me? Vivian asked quietly. You said you hate Dominic, but that's not a reason to risk your life. Sienna was quiet for a long moment. The taxi turned onto a main road, heading toward the train station. I worked for Dominic once, Sienna finally said. 3 years ago. I was part of his security team. Good at my job. Loyal. Her jaw tightened. Then my brother got involved in something he shouldn't have. A deal that went bad. Money disappeared. Dominic blamed my family. What happened? My brother died in a car accident that wasn't an accident. My mother had a heart attack 2 weeks later. Stress, the doctors said. But I knew better. Sienna's hands clenched into fists. Dominic took everything from me. So yeah, I hate him. And when I saw you at that airport, running in a wedding dress, I saw a chance to hurt him back. By helping me. By taking something he wants. Sienna looked at her. You're not just a runaway bride, Vivian. You're leverage. You're a loose end. And men like Dominic Volkov hate loose ends. The taxi pulled up to Union Station. Sienna paid the driver in cash and they got out. The station was busy even this late. Travelers hauled luggage. Families waited on benches. Security guards walked patrol routes. Sienna led Vivian to a row of lockers near the bathrooms. She opened number 247 with a key from her pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside were 2 passports, cash, and train tickets. These will get you to Chicago, Sienna said, handing Vivian one of the passports. From there, you can disappear. New name. New life. The Bratva won't follow you that far. Vivian opened the passport. The photo was hers, but the name read Sarah Mitchell. You planned this. Before you even found me at the airport. I've been planning to run from this city for months. I just needed the right moment. Sienna tucked the envelope under her arm. The train leaves in 40 minutes. Gate 12. They started walking toward the platforms. Vivian glanced at the departure boards. Chicago. Then maybe further. Canada. Somewhere Dominic Volkov's reach didn't extend. She could actually escape. Then she saw him. Standing near Gate 12, hands in his pockets, was Dominic Volkov. He wasn't alone. Marco, his second in command, stood to his right. 6 other men in suits flanked him on both sides. They weren't pointing guns, weren't causing a scene. They were just standing there, waiting. Dominic's gray eyes locked onto Vivian across the crowded station. He didn't smile, didn't move, just watched. Sienna grabbed Vivian's arm. Don't run. Walk slowly, back toward the exit. But it was too late. Dominic's men had already spread out, blocking the exits. Casual, professional, trapping them without anyone else in the station noticing. How did he find us? Vivian breathed. I don't know. Sienna's hand moved toward her weapon. Don't, a voice said behind them. They turned. A tall man with a scar across his cheek stood there. He held a phone, showing them a photo on the screen. It was surveillance footage. From the safe house. From tonight. You triggered a silent alarm when you opened that locker, he said in a thick Russian accent. Volkov's been tracking you since you left the airport. He let you run. Let you think you were free. He smiled without warmth. He wanted to see where you'd go. Who you'd contact. Vivian's blood turned to ice. Sienna had been so careful. So smart. But Dominic had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. The man gestured toward gate 12. Toward Dominic. He wants to talk. And if you run again, he won't be this patient. Vivian looked at Sienna. Sienna looked back, her expression torn between fight and surrender. Then Sienna lowered her hand away from her weapon. We don't have a choice, she said quietly. They walked toward gate 12. Toward Dominic Volkov. Toward the man Vivian had run from just hours ago. He watched them approach with that same cold, unreadable expression. When they stopped in front of him, he spoke for the first time since the cathedral. Hello, wife. His voice was soft. Dangerous. We need to talk about your father. Chapter 4. Dominic's men surrounded them in a loose circle. Not close enough to be obvious, but near enough that running was impossible. Travelers walked past, oblivious. To them, this looked like a business meeting. Nothing more. Vivian's hand itched to reach for the gun tucked against her back, but she knew it was useless. She'd be dead before she could even pull it free. Dominic studied her with those cold gray eyes. He looked exactly as he had at the altar. Perfect suit. Not a hair out of place. Like chasing her through the city had been nothing more than a mild inconvenience. You've caused quite a scene tonight, he said. The airport shutdown alone cost me $3 million in favors. Send me a bill, Vivian shot back. His expression didn't change. I plan to. But first, we're going to have a conversation about what your father stole from me. I don't know anything about that. No. Dominic pulled out his phone and tapped the screen. He turned it to show her security footage. The same footage Sienna had shown her earlier. Her father entering the estate. Opening the safe. Taking the black box. 2 nights ago, Richard Clarke broke into my private office and stole a hard drive containing information worth more than his pathetic life. Dominic pocketed the phone. Information that, in the wrong hands, could dismantle everything I've built. Then maybe you shouldn't have left it somewhere my drunk father could find it, Vivian said. Marco, standing beside Dominic, took a step forward. Watch your mouth. Dominic raised one hand. Marco stopped. Your father had help, Dominic continued. The Antonov Bratva paid him to steal from me. They believe he gave the drive to you before the wedding. They believe you're carrying it right now. That's why they attacked the safe house. Sienna shifted beside Vivian. She doesn't have it. We searched her things. There's nothing. I know. Dominic's gaze moved to Sienna. Sienna Markov. Former member of my security detail. Currently wanted for theft of classified documents and conspiracy. He tilted his head. I'm surprised you had the nerve to show your face in my city again. Your city. Sienna's voice was ice. You don't own everything, Volkov. Don't I? He gestured to the men surrounding them. I own enough. Vivian stepped between them. If you know I don't have the drive, then let me go. This has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you. Dominic moved closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive. Suffocating. Your father used you as collateral. He signed a marriage contract knowing he was about to betray me. He put a target on your back and then disappeared. So find him. Not me. I intend to. But first, I need to ensure the Bratva doesn't kill you before I can use you to draw him out. The words hit her like a slap. Use me? Your father cares about one thing in this world. Himself. But he won't let his only daughter die if he can prevent it. Not when it would make him look bad. Dominic signaled to Marco. Take them to the car. No. Vivian backed up. I'm not going anywhere with you. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Then make it quickly. The Bratva has people in this station. They're watching us right now. You can come with me to safety, or you can run and see how far you get before Alexei Antonov's men put a bullet in your head." Vivian looked around. The station suddenly felt more dangerous. Every face could be an enemy. Every person a threat. Sienna leaned close and whispered, "He's not wrong. The Bratva doesn't negotiate. If they think you're valuable, they'll take you. And what they'll do to get information out of you is worse than anything Dominic would do. You're defending him now? I'm keeping you alive. There's a difference." Dominic watched them with barely concealed impatience. 10 seconds, Vivian. Then I let the Bratva have you, and I find your father on my own. Every option was terrible. Go with Dominic and become bait. Run and get hunted by the Russians. Stay here and die in the crossfire when both sides made their move. She thought about her father, the man who'd put her in this position, who'd sold her, stolen from criminals, and left her to deal with the consequences. Part of her wanted to let the Bratva take her just to spite him, but a larger part wanted to survive. "Fine," she said through gritted teeth. "But if you think I'm playing the obedient wife, you're insane. I don't need obedience. I need cooperation." Dominic turned and walked toward the exit. Marco and the other men formed a protective circle around Vivian and Sienna, guiding them forward. They moved through the station like a trained unit. No one stopped them. No one even looked twice. Outside, 3 black SUVs waited at the curb. Marco opened the door of the middle vehicle. Dominic climbed in first. Vivian hesitated, then followed. Sienna slid in beside her. The door closed with a heavy thunk. The interior smelled like leather and gunpowder. Dominic sat across from them, perfectly composed. Marco took the front passenger seat. The driver pulled into traffic without a word. They drove in tense silence. Vivian watched the city pass by through tinted windows. Every street corner could hide danger. Every car could be following them. "Where are we going?" she finally asked. "Somewhere secure," Dominic said. "My estate. The same place your father broke into. The place crawling with your men and security? That's supposed to make me feel safe. Safer than the alternatives." He pulled out a tablet and began scrolling through something. "The Bratva won't attack my home directly. Not without starting a war they can't win." "And what about the FBI?" Sienna asked. "You think they're not watching you after that airport stunt? The FBI has bigger problems than me right now." Dominic didn't look up from his tablet. "I've made sure of that." Vivian's stomach turned. He spoke about manipulating federal law enforcement like it was nothing. Like he really did own the entire city. "How long do I have to stay at your estate?" she asked. "Until your father surfaces. Or until I find him myself. And if he doesn't surface? Then you and I have a different conversation about how to handle this marriage." "There is no marriage. I said no at the altar." "Legally you did." Dominic finally looked at her. "But the contract your father signed is still valid. He owes me a debt. You're the payment. People aren't payment. In my world they are." His expression was unreadable. "But I'm not unreasonable. Help me find your father and recover what he stole, and I'll dissolve the contract. You'll be free to go wherever you want." It sounded too easy. Too clean. "What's the catch?" Vivian asked. "No catch. Just consequences if you fail." He leaned back in his seat. "Your father made you a target. The Bratva wants you. Other families will hear about this and see opportunity. The only way you survive is under my protection. Or I disappear. New identity. New city. The Bratva has reach across 12 countries. Antonov himself has contacts in 30. There's nowhere you can run that he won't eventually find you. Not without my resources." Dominic's voice was matter of fact. "I'm offering you a chance to end this. Take it or spend the rest of your very short life looking over your shoulder." Vivian wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him to go to hell. But everything he said was true. She'd seen tonight how fast they'd found Sienna's safe house. How easily they'd tracked them to the station. Running wasn't working. The SUV turned through massive iron gates. A long driveway stretched ahead, lined with trees and security lights. At the end stood an enormous estate. 3 stories. Stone facade. Windows that probably cost more than most houses. This was where her father had broken in. Where he'd stolen the hard drive that had destroyed her life. The vehicle stopped at the main entrance. Marco got out first, scanning the area. Then he opened Vivian's door. She climbed out, legs stiff from sitting. Sienna followed, looking around warily. Dominic emerged last, buttoning his suit jacket. "Welcome home, wife." The words made her skin crawl. Men in suits stood at every entrance. Cameras covered every angle. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress, and she was a prisoner inside it. Dominic walked up the steps to the massive front doors. They opened automatically, revealing a marble foyer with a chandelier that belonged in a palace. "Marco will show you to your room," Dominic said without looking back. "We'll discuss our arrangement in the morning." "I'm not sharing a room with you," Vivian said immediately. "You'll have your own room. I'm not that barbaric." He paused at the base of a grand staircase. "But understand this, Vivian. You're here because I allow it. You're alive because I'm protecting you. Don't forget which one of us has the power in this situation." Then he disappeared up the stairs, leaving her standing in the foyer with Marco and Sienna. Marco gestured to a different hallway. "This way." As they followed him, Sienna leaned close to Vivian. "We need to find that hard drive before Dominic does," she whispered. "Because if he gets it back, he won't need you anymore. And men like him don't leave loose ends alive." Chapter 5. Marco led them through hallways that seemed endless. Marble floors. Oil paintings worth fortunes. Every door they passed was closed, hiding whatever secrets Dominic kept in his fortress. He stopped at a room on the second floor and opened the door. "This is yours." Vivian stepped inside. The room was bigger than her entire apartment had been. A king-sized bed with silk sheets. A sitting area with a velvet couch. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured gardens. It looked like a luxury hotel suite. It also had bars on the windows. Bathrooms through there. Closets stocked with clothes in your size. Marco pointed to another door. "Sienna's room is next door. Dinner is at 7. Don't be late." "What if I don't want dinner?" Vivian asked. "Then you'll go hungry. But Dominic expects you at the table." Marco's expression was stone. "Don't test his patience more than you already have." He left, closing the door behind him. The lock clicked. Vivian ran to it and tried the handle. Locked from the outside. "Of course it is," she muttered. She moved to the windows next. The bars were thick steel, bolted into the stone frame. Beyond them, the gardens stretched for acres. Guards patrolled with dogs. Floodlights illuminated every corner. There was no way out. She sank onto the bed, head in her hands. Everything had gone so wrong so fast. This morning, she'd been preparing to marry a stranger. Tonight, she was locked in his mansion, hunted by the Russian mob, and her father was missing with stolen data that could get her killed. A soft knock came from the adjoining wall. 3 taps. A pause. 2 more taps. Vivian went to the wall and knocked back. The same pattern. A door she hadn't noticed before clicked open. It connected her room to Sienna's. Sienna slipped through, closing it quietly behind her. "The locks on these doors are basic. I picked mine in under a minute. Can you pick the hallway door too?" "Already did. But there's guards everywhere. We'd never make it out of the estate." Sienna sat on the edge of the bed. "We need a different plan." "Like what?" "Dominic has us trapped. For now. But he made a mistake bringing us here." Sienna pulled out her phone. The screen was cracked but still working. "This is the same estate your father broke into. Which means whatever security weakness he exploited might still exist." Vivian's pulse quickened. "You think we can find the hard drive?" "I think we can try. Your father didn't have much time. He couldn't have hidden it far." Sienna opened a notes app and started typing. "We need to figure out where he would have stashed it. Somewhere Dominic's men wouldn't think to look. My father isn't smart enough for that. Maybe not. But the Bratva is. They would have told him exactly where to hide it." Sienna's fingers flew across the screen. "Think. Did your father give you anything in the weeks before the wedding? A gift? A package?" Vivian thought back. Her father had barely spoken to her after announcing the arrangement. He'd avoided her. Couldn't meet her eyes. The only time they'd interacted was 3 days before the wedding when he'd insisted she take something. Her mother's locket. Oh God! Vivian's hand went to her throat. The locket. She'd worn it at the wedding. She'd been wearing it when she ran. She'd been wearing it this entire time. "What?" Sienna leaned forward. "My mother's locket. My father gave it to me 3 days ago. Said it would bring me luck." Vivian fumbled with the clasp, pulling it off. Her hands shook as she examined it. The locket was silver, tarnished with age. Her mother's photo was inside. She'd opened it 100 times over the years. But she'd never looked at the back panel. Sienna took it from her and used a knife from her boot to pry at the edges. The back popped open, revealing a hollow space. Inside was a micro SD card. They stared at it in stunned silence. "Your father hid it on you," Sienna breathed. He gave you the most valuable piece of intelligence in the city, and you've been carrying it around your neck. Vivian felt sick. I had it at the wedding. Dominic could have just taken it. He didn't know. Nobody did. Sienna held the tiny card up to the light. This is what everyone's been killing for. This is why the Bratva attacked the safe house. Why Dominic shut down the airport. What do we do with it? We use it. Sienna's eyes gleamed. This drive contains everything about Dominic's operation. Bank accounts, business partners, dirty cops, politicians on his payroll. With this, we have leverage. Or we have a death sentence. Same thing, depending on how you use it. Sienna stood and went to the window thinking. If we give it to Dominic, he gets his power back and we become useless. He might let us go. He might not. And if we don't give it to him, we find a way to use it as insurance. Make copies. Threaten to release it if he comes after us. It's mutually assured destruction. Sienna turned back. But first, we need to know what's actually on here. How do we do that without Dominic finding out? His office. The one your father broke into. It'll have a secure computer system. If we can access it without triggering alarms, we can see what's on the drive and make copies. Vivian shook her head. That's insane. This place is crawling with guards. It's also dinner time soon. Most of the staff will be occupied. Security shifts change at 7:30. We'll have a 20-minute window. Sienna checked her phone. It's 6:40 now. We need to move fast. Dominic expects me at dinner. So we go to dinner. We sit. We eat. Then I'll create a distraction, and you slip away to find the office. I don't even know where it is. 3rd floor. East wing. Your father's security footage showed the route. I memorized it. Sienna grabbed Vivian's shoulders. This is our only chance. Once Dominic realizes you had the drive all along, he won't let you out of his sight. We have to do this now. Every instinct told Vivian this was a terrible idea. But Sienna was right. The locket had been the answer all along. Her father had hidden it on her, betting nobody would think to look there. He'd made her the mule without telling her. And now she had the power to destroy Dominic Volkov or save herself. Okay, Vivian said. What's the distraction? Sienna smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Leave that to me. At 7 o'clock, Marco unlocked their doors and escorted them downstairs. The dining room was enormous. A table that could seat 30 people. Crystal chandeliers. Paintings of people Vivian didn't recognize. Dominic sat at the head of the table, already eating. He didn't look up when they entered. Sit, he said. Vivian took a seat halfway down the table. Sienna sat across from her. Servers appeared immediately, placing plates of food in front of them. Steak. Roasted vegetables. Wine in crystal glasses. Vivian's stomach was too knotted to eat, but she forced herself to take a bite. She needed to appear normal. Dominic cut his steak with precise movements. I've had my people searching for your father all evening. No results yet. He's gone underground. Good, Vivian said. You'd rather he stay hidden? Even though it means you stay here. I'd rather he disappears forever and I never have to see him again. Dominic finally looked at her. Careful what you wish for. If I don't find him, other people will. And they won't be as merciful. Merciful? You call this merciful? You're alive. You're fed. You're safe. Yes, I call that merciful. He returned his attention to his meal. Many people in your position would already be dead. Sienna cleared her throat. Speaking of mercy, I don't suppose you'd consider letting me leave? I'm not part of this family drama. You helped Vivian escape. That makes you part of it. Dominic sipped his wine. Besides, I have questions about your involvement with the Bratva. Questions I intend to get answers to. I'm not involved with them. Then why did they know exactly where to find you tonight? Sienna's jaw tightened. She didn't answer. The meal continued in tense silence. Vivian pushed food around her plate, watching the clock on the wall. 7:20. 7:25. At 7:28, Sienna stood abruptly. I need to use the bathroom. Sit down, Marco said from his position by the door. What? Am I not allowed to pee in this prison? You can wait until dinner is finished. I really can't. Sienna's face contorted. Unless you want me to have an accident right here on your fancy floors. Marco looked at Dominic. Dominic sighed and waved a hand. Fine, but you have 2 minutes. Sienna left the dining room. Marco followed her out. It was just Vivian, Dominic, and 2 guards remaining in the room. Vivian's heart pounded. This was her window. But she couldn't just stand up and leave. She needed her own excuse. She took a sip of wine. Then another. Then she knocked the glass over. Red wine spilled across the white tablecloth, spreading like blood. "I'm so sorry," she said, standing quickly. "I'm such an idiot. Let me get something to clean that." One of the guards moved toward her. "Sit down. The staff will handle it. It's fine. I can help." She was already moving toward the door. "I'll just grab some towels from the kitchen." "Miss Clarke, sit down." She ignored him and walked out of the dining room. The guard followed, but she turned a corner quickly and broke into a run. Behind her, she heard shouting. Footsteps. She ran for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. 3rd floor. East wing. She had maybe 2 minutes before they caught her. She just hoped it was enough. Chapter 6. Vivian reached the 3rd floor breathless. The hallway stretched in both directions. Identical doors. Identical paintings. No signs. East wing. Which way was east? Footsteps thundered up the stairs behind her. Voices shouted commands. She picked right and ran. Her borrowed boots slapped against marble. She passed door after door, trying handles as she went. Locked. 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 Behind her, the guards reached the landing. Stop! She didn't stop. She turned another corner and found herself in a wider corridor. Darker. Fewer lights. At the end was a set of double doors made of dark wood. That had to be it. She sprinted toward them, grabbed the handles, and pulled. Locked. The guards rounded the corner behind her. Vivian pulled the bobby pin from her hair, something she'd watched Sienna do earlier with her own lock. She jammed it into the keyhole, twisting desperately. She had no idea what she was doing. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the pin. The guards were 20 feet away. Click. The lock gave way. She shoved the doors open, threw herself inside, and slammed them shut behind her. There was a heavy deadbolt. She threw it just as the guards reached the door. They pounded on the wood. Open this door. Now! Vivian backed away, chest heaving. She turned to survey the room. It was an office. Massive. Dark leather furniture. Bookshelves lining the walls. A desk the size of a small car sat near the windows. 3 computer monitors glowed on its surface. This was Dominic's private office. The place her father had broken into. She ran to the desk and sat in the leather chair. The computers were already on, screens displaying security feeds from around the estate. She saw the dining room. Dominic was standing now, speaking urgently to Marco. She saw the hallway outside this very office. 5 guards gathered at the door, trying to break through. She didn't have much time. Vivian pulled the micro SD card from her pocket. She needed to find a way to read it. The main computer had several ports on the side. She found an SD card adapter in the desk drawer and slotted it in. The pounding on the door grew louder. Wood splintered. Come on. Come on. A window popped up on the screen. External drive detected. Password required. Of course it was password protected. She tried her birthday. Her mother's birthday. Her father's birthday. All denied. The door was breaking. Cracks appeared in the wood. Think. What would her father use as a password? She tried her mother's maiden name. Denied. Their old address. Denied. The date her mother died. Denied. The guards were almost through. She could see their shoulders ramming into the door. The deadbolt wouldn't hold much longer. Vivian's hands hovered over the keyboard. One more try before the system locked her out. What mattered most to her father? What would he use? Then it hit her. The only thing Richard Clarke had ever truly loved. Money. She typed in the amount of his debt. 3 million. The screen went black. Then lines of code began scrolling. Files appeared. Hundreds of them. She was in. Vivian grabbed a blank USB drive from the drawer and started copying everything. The progress bar crawled across the screen. 20%. 30%. The door exploded inward. Guards poured through, guns drawn. Don't move. Vivian didn't move. She kept her hands visible, away from the keyboard. The files continued copying behind her. 40%. 50%. Dominic walked in last. His expression was cold fury barely contained. He looked at her sitting in his chair, at his computer, with his private files open on the screen. Explain, he said quietly. The quiet was more terrifying than shouting. I found it. Vivian's voice shook, but she forced the words out. The hard drive. I had it the whole time. His eyes narrowed. Where? My mother's locket. My father hid it there 3 days before the wedding. I didn't know until tonight. Dominic moved closer. 60%. 70%. And you decided to access my private system instead of bringing it to me. I needed to know what was on it. I needed to know what my father stole. That's not your decision to make. He reached for the keyboard. Don't. Vivian stood, putting herself between him and the computer. I've already uploaded copies to a secure server. If anything happens to me, everything on that drive goes public. Every dirty cop. Every politician. Every account. All of it. It was a bluff. She hadn't uploaded anything. But Dominic didn't know that. His hand paused. You're lying. Am I? How well do you think the FBI would treat you if they had a complete map of your entire operation? She held his gaze. How long before your business partners turn on you? How long before your own men sell you out to save themselves? 80%. 90%. Dominic's jaw clenched. Behind him, Marco and the guards waited for orders. One word and they'd grab her. Search the computer. Find out she was bluffing. You're playing a dangerous game, Dominic said. You put me in this game. I didn't ask for any of this. No, your father did. And now you're suffering the consequences. Then let me go. Dissolve the contract. Let me disappear and I'll never release the files. You expect me to believe you'd just walk away? That you wouldn't sell that information to the highest bidder the moment you were free? I don't want your money or your empire. I just want my life back. 100%. The files finished copying. Vivian casually reached behind her and ejected the USB drive, palming it. Dominic studied her face, looking for tells, for weakness, for lies. Whatever he saw made him smile. It wasn't a kind smile. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, he said. But you're forgetting something important. What's that? I don't negotiate with people who steal from me. I eliminate them. He gestured to Marco. Search her. Take everything. Then lock her in the basement until I decide what to do with her. Marco moved forward. Vivian backed up against the desk, hand clenching around the USB drive. Then the lights went out. The entire estate plunged into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on seconds later, casting everything in dim red. Alarms blared throughout the building. Marco grabbed his radio. Status report. What happened? Static. Then a voice crackled through. Security breach. East perimeter. Multiple contacts. Armed. The Bratva, Dominic said. His voice was ice. They're here. Gunfire erupted somewhere below them. Glass shattered. Men shouted in Russian and English. The estate was under attack. Dominic pulled a gun from inside his jacket and moved toward the door. Marco, get her to the safe room. Now. What about you? I'm ending this. Dominic looked back at Vivian one last time. We're not done. You and I will finish this conversation after I've dealt with Alexei Antonov. Then he was gone, running toward the sound of gunfire. Marco grabbed Vivian's arm. Move. But Vivian had other plans. The moment Marco pulled her toward the door, she yanked free and ran in the opposite direction. Toward the windows. Stop! Marco shouted. She didn't stop. She grabbed a desk chair and hurled it at the window. Glass exploded outward. Cold night air rushed in. She looked down. 3 stories. Gardens below. Hedges that might break her fall or might break her spine. Behind her, Marco raised his gun. More gunfire echoed from downstairs. Closer now. The Bratva was pushing deeper into the estate. Vivian made her choice. She tucked the USB drive into her bra, grabbed the window frame, and jumped. The fall lasted forever and no time at all. Wind rushed past. The ground came up fast. She hit the hedge hard. Branches scratched her face and arms. Pain exploded through her ribs. But the hedge bent, cushioning enough of the impact that nothing broke. She rolled out of the hedge onto grass. Above her, Marco appeared at the broken window, silhouetted against the emergency lights. You crazy? An explosion rocked the east wing. Flames erupted from the lower floors. The blast knocked Marco back from the window. Vivian scrambled to her feet and ran. Her body screamed in protest. Blood dripped from cuts on her face. But she ran anyway. Guards were everywhere, but they were focused on the Bratva assault. Nobody paid attention to one woman running across the dark gardens. She reached the tree line at the edge of the property. The estate's wall was visible beyond, 20 feet high, topped with cameras and motion sensors. She looked back. The mansion was chaos. Gunfire. Explosions. Smoke rising into the night sky. Somewhere in that mess was Dominic. And Sienna. Vivian's hand moved to the USB drive pressed against her chest. She had what everyone wanted. She had the power to destroy them all. But she also had the power to save herself. She started running along the wall, looking for a way out. Looking for freedom. Behind her, the battle for Dominic Volkov's empire raged on. And Vivian Clarke was done being anyone's prisoner. Chapter 7. The hedge had saved her life, but every muscle in Vivian's body screamed as she ran along the estate's wall. Behind her, the mansion burned. Gunfire cracked through the night like fireworks. Men shouted in Russian and English. The battle between Dominic's forces and the Bratva tore through the grounds. She needed to find a way out. The wall stretched endlessly in both directions, smooth stone 20 feet high. No gates. No breaks. Just security cameras every 50 feet and floodlights that swept the perimeter. Vivian pressed herself against the wall as a spotlight passed overhead. Her ribs ached from the fall. Blood trickled down her face from where the hedge had scratched her. The USB drive pressed against her chest, tucked safely in her bra. A section of the wall ahead looked different. Darker. As she got closer, she saw why. Ivy covered this part, thick and old, climbing all the way to the top. She grabbed the vines and pulled. They held. Vivian started climbing. Her arms shook with exhaustion. The borrowed boots slipped on the stone. But she forced herself upward, hand over hand, finding footholds in the gaps between stones. Halfway up, she heard voices below. Russian accents. Bratva soldiers searching the grounds. She froze, pressing flat against the wall. The ivy rustled around her. Check the perimeter, one man barked. The girl went this way. Alexei wants her alive. She has what we came for. Their footsteps moved closer. Flashlight beams swept the ground below her position. Vivian held her breath. Her fingers dug into the ivy. Don't look up. Please don't look up. The footsteps passed beneath her. The voices faded toward another section of the grounds. She started climbing again. Faster now. Her hands were raw. Her arms felt like they would give out. But she pushed through the pain and hauled herself over the top of the wall. The drop on the other side was into thick woods. No guards. No lights. Just darkness and freedom. Vivian jumped. She hit the ground hard, rolled through dead leaves, and came up running. Branches whipped at her face. Roots tried to trip her. She didn't slow down. She crashed through the woods until her lungs burned and her legs could barely hold her. Finally, she stumbled into a clearing and collapsed against a tree. Her whole body shook. Blood mixed with sweat on her face. She'd escaped. She was out. The USB drive was still safe against her chest. Everything Dominic owned. Everything that made him powerful. All in her hands. Vivian pulled out the drive and stared at it in the moonlight. Such a small thing. So much destruction inside it. She could destroy him. Release everything to the FBI, the media, anyone who would listen. Watch his empire crumble. Or she could disappear. Keep the drive as insurance. Start over somewhere new with a different name, a different life. Behind her, an explosion rocked the estate. Orange flames lit up the night sky. Vivian tucked the drive away and started walking through the woods. She had no phone. No money. No idea where she was going. But she was free. She walked for what felt like hours. The woods eventually thinned into farmland. Then empty roads. Then finally, the distant glow of a small town. By the time she reached the edge of town, the sun was rising. Her wedding dress was destroyed, barely recognizable under the hoodie and jeans. Her face was covered in cuts and bruises. She found a gas station and used their bathroom to clean up. The mirror showed someone she barely recognized. Hollow eyes. Tangled hair. The look of someone who'd survived a war. Vivian splashed water on her face and tried to think. She needed help. She needed money. She needed to get far away from this city. When she came out of the bathroom, a police car sat in the parking lot. Her heart stopped. But the officer inside was drinking coffee, paying no attention to her. Just a routine stop. Vivian kept her head down and started walking away from the station. She made it 3 blocks before the black sedan pulled up beside her. The back door opened. Get in, Vivian. She turned. Dominic sat in the back seat, looking exactly as he had at dinner. Perfect suit. Not a hair out of place. Like he hadn't just fought off a Russian mob assault on his home. How did you find me? Her voice came out hoarse. I know this territory. There are only 3 roads out of the estate through those woods. I had cars on all of them. He gestured to the seat beside him. Please. We don't have much time. I'm not going back. I'm not asking you to. But the Bratva is still looking for you. And now they know you have what they want. His gray eyes fixed on her. You can't run forever. Vivian's hand moved to the USB drive under her shirt. Maybe I don't have to. Maybe I already uploaded everything to the cloud. Maybe it goes public if anything happens to me. You didn't. Dominic's voice was certain. Because you're smarter than that. You know, the moment you release that information, you become useless. Every enemy I have would kill you just to make sure no one else could use it against them. He was right. She hated that he was right. Then what do you want? She asked. To finish what we started. To find your father and end this. He leaned forward. The Bratva has him, Vivian. They took him during the attack. They're using him to draw you out. Her stomach dropped. Why would they do that? Because he doesn't have the real drive. He gave them a fake. They figured it out, and now they want the real one. Dominic's expression was unreadable. They'll trade him for it. Midnight tonight. The old docks. Vivian's mind raced. Her father. The man who'd sold her, betrayed her, used her as a pawn. Part of her wanted to let the Bratva keep him. Let him face the consequences of his choices. But he was still her father. If I give them the drive, they'll kill us both anyway, she said. Yes. Which is why we're not giving them the drive. Dominic pulled out his phone and showed her a photo. It was her mother's locket. We're giving them this. A perfect copy with a corrupted drive inside. By the time they figure it out, you'll be on a plane to anywhere you want to go. And you? I'll handle the Bratva. This ends tonight. He looked at her. Really looked at her. But I need you to trust me. One last time. Vivian stared at him. This man who'd tried to own her. Who'd shut down an airport to catch her. Who'd locked her in his mansion. This man who'd also protected her from the Bratva. Who'd sent his best doctor to save Sienna. Who was offering her freedom. Why? She asked. Why help me after everything? Dominic was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that surprised her. Because you were right. At the cathedral. You're not property. You're not something to be owned. His voice softened slightly. And I'm tired of being the man who takes things by force. Vivian searched his face for lies. For manipulation. For the cold ruthlessness she'd seen at the altar. But all she saw was exhaustion. And maybe something like regret. She got in the car. Chapter 8. The car drove through the city as dawn broke over the skyline. Vivian sat rigid in the back seat, her mind racing through everything that had happened in the past 24 hours. The wedding. The escape. The revelations about her father. The Bratva. Dominic made calls on his phone, speaking in clipped Russian to various contacts. Coordinating. Planning. Preparing for whatever would happen at midnight. The locket, Vivian said suddenly. Where is it? Dominic ended his call and pulled a small velvet box from his jacket. Inside was her mother's locket, identical to the one she wore. Perfect down to the tarnish on the silver. My jeweler worked through the night, he said. The Bratva won't know the difference until they try to access the drive. Vivian took the fake locket and held it next to her real one. Even she could barely tell them apart. What happens after? She asked. After we make the trade? You disappear. New name. New passport. Enough money to start over anywhere you want. Dominic looked out the window. The Bratva will come after me once they realize the drive is fake. But that's my problem, not yours. They'll kill you. Maybe. Maybe not. I've survived worse. His voice was flat. Matter of fact. Vivian studied his profile. You're doing this because of my real father. Whoever he was. Dominic's jaw tightened. Viktor Romanov. He taught me everything about this world. Honor. Strategy. When to show mercy and when to show strength. He paused. Your mother was a journalist investigating organized crime. Viktor fell in love with her. Gave up everything to be with her. They had you. Then what happened? Richard Clarke happened. He worked for Viktor as an accountant. Had access to everything. One night he staged an accident. Made it look like Viktor died in a warehouse fire. Then he swooped in to comfort your grieving mother. Married her within a year. She never knew the truth. Vivian's chest felt tight. And you've known this whole time? I suspected for years. Confirmed it 6 months ago when I started researching your father's background for the marriage arrangement. Dominic finally looked at her. Viktor made me promise something before he died. He grabbed my arm in that burning warehouse and said, protect my daughter. No matter what. I didn't understand then. But I do now. So the marriage was never about my father's debt. The debt was real. But I could have handled it a dozen other ways. I chose marriage because it was the only way to keep you close. To keep you safe from the enemies Viktor made. From the life Richard was dragging you into. His voice softened. I just didn't expect you to run. Vivian didn't know what to say. Everything she thought she knew had been a lie. The car pulled up to a warehouse in the industrial district. Dominic's men were already there, armed and positioned on rooftops and in shadows. Marco approached the car. Everything is ready. Antonov sent confirmation. Midnight at the docks. He'll have Richard Clarke and 20 men. We'll have 40, Dominic said. But tell them to hold fire unless I give the order. This ends peacefully if possible. Marco nodded and walked away. Vivian and Dominic spent the day in the warehouse. She tried to sleep on a cot in the corner, but couldn't. Her mind kept spinning through scenarios. What if the Bratva saw through the fake? What if they killed her father before the exchange? What if Dominic died protecting her? As the sun set, Dominic called her over to a table covered in maps and photos. When we arrive at the docks, stay behind me, he said. Marco will cover your left. 2 more men on your right. If shooting starts, they'll get you to the extraction vehicle. What about you? I'll be fine. That's not an answer. Dominic looked at her. Really looked at her. I've done terrible things in my life, Vivian. Hurt people who didn't deserve it. Built an empire on fear and violence. But keeping you alive? That's the one good thing I can do. The one debt I can repay. You don't owe me anything. I owe Victor everything. And you're all that's left of him. He handed her a gun. Smaller than the one Sienna had given her. Safety is here. Point and shoot if you have to. Aim for center mass. Vivian took the weapon with shaking hands. I don't want to kill anyone. Then pray you don't have to. At 11:30, they drove to the docks. The area was abandoned. Old shipping containers stacked like a metal maze. Rusted cranes reaching into the dark sky. The smell of salt water and decay. Dominic's men spread out, taking positions. Vivian stayed close to him as they walked toward the meeting point at the center of the dock. At exactly midnight, headlights cut through the darkness. 3 black vans pulled up. Doors opened. Alexei Antonov stepped out, flanked by armed men. And there, hands bound and face bruised, was her father. Vivian's breath caught. Richard Clarke looked small. Pathetic. Nothing like the man who'd raised her. Alexei smiled as he approached. He was older than Dominic. Gray hair. Cold blue eyes. A scar running down his left cheek. Dominic Volkov. You've caused me considerable trouble. The feeling is mutual, Alexei. Alexei's gaze moved to Vivian. And this must be the bride who started all of this. You have something that belongs to me. Vivian pulled out the fake locket. You get this when I get my father. Show me the drive first. She opened the locket. The micro SD card glinted in the moonlight. Alexei gestured. 2 of his men shoved Richard forward. He stumbled and fell to his knees. Vivian, Richard gasped. Please, help me. She looked down at him. This man who'd sold her. Who'd stolen her real father from her. Who'd spent her entire life using her. Then she looked past him and saw Sienna standing among the Bratva soldiers. Alive, holding a gun. Their eyes met. Sienna's expression was unreadable. Vivian turned back to Alexei. I have a better offer. Alexei raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. You take the drive. You let everyone here walk away. Dominic. His men. My father. Me. No one dies tonight. And why would I agree to that? Because I already uploaded the contents to a secure server. Every 24 hours, I have to enter a code. If I don't, everything goes public. Every operation. Every corrupt official. Every crime family from here to Moscow. Vivian's voice was steady. You kill me, we all go down. The FBI. Interpol. Every agency in the world will have everything they need to destroy you. Alexei's smile faded. You're bluffing. Am I? Do you really want to test that? She held up the locket. Take this and walk away. Or gamble that I'm lying and lose everything. The silence stretched. Dominic's men tensed. The Bratva soldiers shifted their weapons. Finally, Alexei laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. You have your father's cunning. I'll give you that. He snapped his fingers. One of his men came forward and took the locket from Vivian's hand. But this isn't over. Eventually, you'll slip. And when you do, I'll be waiting. He turned and walked back to the vans. His men followed. Sienna glanced at Vivian one last time before climbing into a van. The vehicles drove away into the night. Richard scrambled to his feet. Vivian, thank God. I knew you'd save me. I knew. Shut up, Dominic said quietly. He gestured to Marco. The FBI has warrants for his arrest. Multiple counts of fraud, theft, conspiracy. Make the call. No. Richard grabbed Vivian's arm. You can't do this. I'm your father. Vivian pulled away. You were never my father. You're just the man who killed him. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marco dragged Richard toward a waiting car. He screamed and fought, but it was useless. Vivian watched him go and felt nothing. No sadness. No anger. Just relief that it was finally over. 3 weeks later, Vivian stood on a balcony overlooking the ocean. The coastal town was small and quiet. Tourist shops. Cafes. People who didn't ask questions. She'd dyed her hair darker. Changed her name to Sarah Mitchell. Rented a small apartment above a bookstore. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Truly hers. She heard footsteps behind her. Vivian turned. Dominic stood in the doorway. No suit. Just jeans and a simple shirt. No guards. No weapons. He looked different. Younger somehow. Human. How did you find me? She asked. I've always known where you were. I just waited until you were ready. He stepped onto the balcony. I dismantled everything. Made deals with international authorities. Turned over evidence on my competitors. Walked away from the empire. Why? Because Victor didn't build that world for me to die in it. He wanted better. And so do I. Dominic looked at the ocean. I don't own you, Vivian. I never did. But I'd like the chance to earn you. No contracts. No arrangements. Just us. Vivian studied him. Saw not the cold mafia boss from the altar, but the man who'd protected her when he could have owned her. Who'd let her go when he could have caged her. She smiled and held out her hand. Then let's start over. My name is Vivian. He took her hand. His grip was warm. Gentle. Dominic. Nice to meet you. They walked along the beach as the sun set, leaving behind the violence and darkness. Two people who were forced together by greed, now choosing each other freely. Love had won. And this time it was real. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed Vivian and Dominic's story, please subscribe to my channel. I drop passionate love stories like this every single day. Don't miss out on your next favorite romance. Hit that subscribe button now.